We use this tool so that brands can see what's different about us and how we conceptually think about how we design emails. In addition, we use it too, and we'll update it as we find certain practices no longer work or we find better, more aesthetically pleasing. So this is kind of like a living document.
What you saw in the slides, I will make sure that you can just get it straight up. Welcome back for yet another episode. Ray and I today, as always, changing it up a little bit though. Today we are talking all about email. And not the flow part of email, because that's boring and doesn't make us any money. Let's talk about the email designs. It was quite cool to see the retention marketing team come up with some best practices. And Ray, when you showed that to me, I was like, yo, I think we got to show this to everyone else. Like, it doesn't make sense to hold on to it for ourselves. You want to give some context?
Yeah. So one thing we wanted to do was like, how can we come up with the best way to pump out the best looking designs possible for retention for brands? Because a lot of times when brands come to us, sometimes it's a big dog's breakfast and there's no continuity, there's no consistency with their branding guidelines. And so Leanne, our team lead on the design team, on the retention team, we gave her a project to, hey, let's come up with the right hook way of how we think about design conceptually. How do we think about it in terms of conversion best practices based off what we've seen, what we've observed? And that's what she came up with. And honestly, ever since she came up with that, it's made a big difference in terms of our continuity, but also our performance is great. Like, we constantly monitor our performance with benchmarks Klaviyo gives out, other brands that come in. And across the board, we're still consistently overperforming for based off those benchmarks, man. And so, yeah, just hats off to her and the team for coming up with these design best practices. And honestly, I'm going to show you some of the designs. Like, our team are good, man. They are freaking good.
Yeah, for sure. Should we jump into? Well, what do you want to start? Do you want to start with the best practices, or do you want to start with the designs that our team crank out and then go, well, they're based off of like these principles?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's kind of start with a bit of a show and tell, and then we can dive into what are exactly the principles the team uses. Yeah, so I jury picked just a few designs that the team made just recently. I mean, we have hundreds and a whole bank of designs, but I just kind of jury picked the ones that I saw and I put them in a mirror board. And so we kind of do a lot of different niches at Right Hook. So this right here is actually a fashion brand. And one thing that's really tricky with design, especially for a brand that's coming up with a new drop, is sometimes you have to come up with a whole separate theme just for that campaign so that the emails, the ads, and if they're handling the organic social, that they all mesh and they look consistent, like a cohesive campaign. And so a lot of times what our team does is they make the concepts, as you can see here, like this is a GIF. And this particular brand, what they sell is they sell retro themed apparel based off of 80s, 90s, and early 2000s TV shows kids watched in cartoons. And I don't know what this one is, but it's apparently like a Canadian show, Simon and the Land. But I think they did a pretty good job.
Just some Canadian show. Like, I don't know what it is either, but yeah.
Well, it's funny because like you can even see right here, like, printed in Canada. Yeah, I've never seen it, but it's very popular in Canada when you were a kid. Yeah, so hats off to them, man. So they theme, because the whole point is the show is like literally a cartoon on chalk, right? And so the background has that theme. They have like the old retro style TV right here with it playing, just well done. All the way to, we have a lot of supplement and like CPG brands as well. So this is a pretty standard bundle that is this brand just launched, where we have a typical countdown timer. And I'd say this is a fairly standard email that as you'll see in our design guide, this is a particular structure that we adhere to pretty closely. And then one of my personal favorites is this one right here. So this is a brand, they sell beauty care, they sell bundles like bath bombs and things for your hair and your skin. And it's not working right now. Oh, there you go. Can you see that GIF-y?
Yeah, man.
The clouds are moving. Yeah. So our team is just really good at GIFs. Like, so imagine opening an email and you're literally looking at a sky that's moving. How cool is that? So great job on the team on this one. Again, this brand, we're always doing special themes based off of how they're bundling. So this one's obviously a beach theme. So great job by them.
And I think it's cool to have the just something catch your eye, but also in a sea of emails that a prospect or a customer could open, to then like open it up and then go like, okay, cool. This is something that stands out from the crowd, even to start, and then kind of introduce them below the fold is something that I really like about any well executed D2C email campaign or flow, to be honest.
You know what's funny? Even the last episode that we did, when we were talking about Temu, 6 years ago, I was so anti over designing everything, but I've kind of come full circle where it's actually an advantage. Yeah, like I 6 years ago I was, but I've come full circle to where now I see how big of an advantage it is in terms of speaking quality. This brand, when you look at it, you think high quality, right? Because there's so much attention given to how it's presented itself. Mm-hmm. Every email you get from them that we design is well thought out, especially themed. And you feel like you're just getting a premium product. And funny, I have people argue all the time, well, what about deliverability? Trust me, we test it. The way we do it doesn't hurt deliverability. But still, it makes it feel like it's a high-end brand and you're getting value for what you pay for. That's just my opinion. And I think that's where it really starts to make a difference.
So for the record,
people open
for the record, bro.
Go ahead.
For the record. Yeah, I'm so shocked that my voice cracked when I said really. Because that was something that we had like many, to the point of like arguments. Right, like many arguments internally.
There are instances where you can break it, yes, but
right.
But I see, especially because recently we've had to deal with Temu, and I'm like, man, like there is a competitive advantage, slight one, but yes.
Right. So what? So the 6 years ago guy, the 6 years ago Ray, what was his compelling reason for not over designing?
Two reasons. One, because the 6 years ago, Ray was mainly just an advertiser, right? He just slung ads on Google and on Meta, and you didn't have to have the prettiest thing. And that's still the case. Like that has not changed. However, with the competition that happens with Alibaba and now Temu, if you want to build a legit brand, but also you want to raise your prices more, people need to feel like that when they look at you, especially on your website, maybe from your emails, they need to feel like that the value of quality is worth the price. And it's been a hard road to learn that lesson, but all the brands that we've scaled, the ones that are crushing, that put the effort into this, they actually have quantitatively more customers coming back than the brands that don't put that effort and that emphasis into it. And so I'm not saying that there's a direct correlation that you can say because of this happens, but I think it adds to it over time in their experience with your brand. That it is a big deal. Yeah.
Right. And I was always in the camp of, I was a film creative before jumping into this world. So I was always in the camp of, valuing design as a contributor to conversion. But I mean, even putting my consumer hat on, in the world of D2C, where I cannot touch something before I buy it, the customer experience the customer experience that I have prior to that, by way of seeing what type of videos your brand puts together, or the touch, whether that is ads, whether that is on a brand's page or YouTube or all that, or their emails. And I go like, oh, wow, if it looks nice like this to my eye, and it speaks to me, then my brain infers, oh, well, if they're putting in this much effort into their emails, into their lander, into their product page, their collection page, into I don't know, any kind of welcome flow for a discount code or a VIP list that I'm joining, then my brain goes, well, I would imagine the shipping time would be smooth. They would put effort in there. I would imagine the packaging would be nice. It won't just be sent to me in a black trash bag with a brown cardboard box, I would imagine that their after sale care they would put effort in there too. Like all these other inferences I'd be making off of this first touch. So yeah, when you were like, well, man, 6 years ago, I didn't care, but I've come like full circle around.
I still get that tempted a little bit because there's times we'll make a beautiful email and we'll split test plain text right next to it. And the plain text just out crushes the design, which I'm not saying you go throw baby out with that water. You have
on what metric though?
On most metrics, to be honest with you, better opens, better clicks, better conversions. But if you went full circle and only did plain text, that performance would not hold constant. You'd have a degradation over time. So it's not a matter of if or that. Yeah, it's a matter of right? Use them wisely, use them appropriately. But overall, you especially like for example, our last episode, there's literally brands who are selling a product for $6. Temu is what I'm talking about, and brands trying to sell for $60, right? That people that white label. If you make it look like this is a legit brand, like all the things that you mentioned, people honestly, like we kind of are a bit prejudiced in that when we see something that looks reputable, let's call it design, we tend to say, like, you know what, this feels less risky than this other product that looks like a dog's breakfast.
Right.
Or a website or email.
Right. You decommoditize your brand and you start to be able to look premium, or at least, premium enough to commit to have like, pricing power. Right. Because as we know, as consumers, and we definitely know as people in D2C, whether you're a marketer or you're a product designer or a brand owner, consumers don't buy things purely for the utility, right? I mean, there are $12 pair of sneakers out there, but you try to sell a $12 pair of sneakers to like a late teen who wants to look cool in front of their friends, and they would beg you to be like, "Do not make me wear this pair of shoes. I'm gonna get
Payless shoes, man." My parents like, let's go buy some shoes from Payless. I'm like, no, it's got to be from Nike because I need that price tag so I can feel like I got quality.
Right. Exactly. All right. Enough of that spiel. Let's look at some other emails as well.
All right. Yeah. So fashion, same thing. Really putting the attention into the quality of the product, right? So they can feel like the value is worth the price they're paying. Here's two of my favorite ones we designed recently. This is from the same brand. This is actually right around Halloween that I found. This one, it absolutely crushed, and it worked so well that they actually rethemed the entire website just to theme it around this. So great job on our designer, Jay, for making this, man. This one is just so slick.
Yeah, I remember seeing this one. Jay was showing it off that one week.
It looks so good. And again, just by looking at this, since we've been on this theme, does this speak to you as a cheap product? Or does this speak to you as, man, this is a premium product?
Exactly.
Well, those are Jordans, right? So of course those aren't cheap.
Yeah. But even this store, but beyond the product, right? Because this applies for retailers as well who are stocking maybe like several other brands. The store itself, it looks reputable. Look at the store. They are same thing. I would imagine that because they're putting an effort into their emails and it looks slick. One, especially if you're in the sneaker game, you are like the purveyor of style. You need to be able to like showcase that in your email camp, like, right? You are the quality control of style for the people that are shopping at your store. Now, if you're just slapping some stuff together, then that's going to be a whole other impression that you're putting into your potential buyers' minds. If it's just, it could just be plain text, right? If you want to go full, you know what, design doesn't matter. Buy these now on sale, plain text, bullet point, and then Yeezys $500 /200. It's right. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not, it's a whole other impression that you're putting across. There is a place, there is a time and place for good design in terms of not only the then and there conversion, but then also investing into the conversions that come later down the line. I mean, if there's anyone that knows this, it's Right Hook, who understand that, right? The lead up and the tease towards a launch is the investment into the returns that come at a delayed point across time, not at the point where that one campaign goes out.
You know, it's so funny because if I got an email that was plain text saying, buy these Yeezys on sale now for $200 with a hyperlink, I would think that if I clicked it, they're going to steal all my Bitcoin.
Yeah, or like, exactly.
I'm like,
or
don't
like,
click the link.
Totally.
Every time my wife gets anything like an email or a text, I'm like, don't click the link. Don't, whatever you do, don't click it.
But you did mention earlier, that we use a mix of plain text emails as well as designed emails like these.
Yes.
Before we go into like design principles, when is the right time and place? Like, what are some great, I don't know if we use any type of templated baselines, for example, to say if it's a message from the founder, for example, great one to be plain text. Are there any other examples like that?
Yeah, so you're spot on. So if we want it to feel highly personalized, like it's coming from a real human rather than the brand, because not like these emails don't feel like they're coming from a real person, right? It's obviously the brand. But if you want it to feel like it's coming from a real person, definitely go plain text because it adds to the authenticity that's coming from a real person. So like a message from the founder, from this person or that person, or a spokesperson who's on your team, right? So that's number one. Number two, any kind of a apology or stuff's running low or we're running behind, again, for like a real person, do that plain text as well. If also another tech that's kind of akin to it again to make it feel authentic is we'll do what's called a fake forward. You ever heard of that?
Ooh, tell me more.
Okay, so a fake forward is essentially where I think we've all been in business, and when someone forwards us an email, what do you see? You see the FW : and then the message. You open it up and you see someone like you, like, hey, Ray, I need you to take care of this. Dots from to like the normal send receipt recipients. We'll do that a lot. So again, so it feels like it's from the founder where you can design this, do a fake forward, put up top from the founder saying, hey, I think D should take a look at this, right? But we use a personalized tag for your name. So someone sees it and they're like, holy crap, like the founder just forwarded me an email. Like I should take a look at this, right? So those are kind of the strategies we do as a baseline. However,
right.
we'll often go to plain text if we feel like, for whatever reason, engagement is starting to go down or we need to get deliverability back up again. We will start doing a higher percentage of plain text as a testing experiment. And then once that kind of recovers, then we'll go back to more design.
Got you. Understand.
Yeah.
The
question.
I like those little email growth hacks, like the fake forward, or even capitalizing on an apology one. Like I've seen,
dude,
I have
apologies work so good.
Right. It works so good for actually turning a profit. Not just like, of course, there are genuine apologies if you're running behind, if you're low on stock or all that type of stuff. But I have a habit of, I would classify it as unhealthy habit of signing up to all the email like lists as all the brands that I like or I want to watch. So I get to have a look at their stuff and just squirrel it away into my little Notion. But the amount of times I've seen apology ones that are like, I read it and I go, master stroke, sir, or madam, whoever is behind this, good job. Because it'll be apology and it'll be like some offer to buy something or like take up an offer. Works.
Every time we've done an apology, either for realsies or for fakesies, I know I'm being a little weird, it works. Now, I say this, and now everyone who watches this is going to go do an apology and it's going to stop working. That's just how the marketing world goes. But it really does work. And so we try to tell our team and our brands, like every time we do something like a launch or a sale, we need to work in some kind of an apology. Like, oh, sorry, we ran out of this stock, or sorry, our site broke because so many people are interested. Like those work really well.
For the record, for those of you that are thinking about doing this right now, yes, it absolutely works, but maybe you might want to consider adding a big bold text if you have a team, and the big bold text should read "few and far between." Like, don't just send out an apology every 2 weeks. Yeah, few and far between. So
like,
if you're
it's like once a quarter we do an apology. Yeah,
right. Or tie it up with like a launch, like you said, right? When there is a launch, and of course there is a highly believable reason, right, for that apology to come out. That is opportune time. But please don't go apologizing every 2 weeks and being like, "Sorry, I forgot to brush my teeth today. Here's an offer." It's not.
What's so funny is like, there's human error in everything we do. Like sometimes, someone on the brand's team makes the wrong promo code, or things don't go out at the right time, whether that's the SMS, the email, their own organic post, maybe their site that's locked down doesn't unlock at the right time. Like just human error, that crap happens. But when it happens in a brand, it's like, oh, dang it, someone screwed up. I'm like, great. That's amazing. Let's go work up an apology email because that's just going to crush every time. So again, like Adi said, don't do it. Like, don't cry wolf all the time because people are going to start coming. But use it very strategically, but do use it.
Yeah. And there's the benefit on the other side, right? The benefit on the other side being you're putting out a genuine apology. Your customers and potential customers are getting to hear from a brand that is owning up to something that they messed up on. So at the first instance, it's already ticking that box and it's building that relationship with your customer base. And then the gravy on top of that is you can actually turn a coin based off of that apology.
I love doing the things that sometimes people think aren't scalable because of what it actually does for your customers and how much they actually start to endear themselves to you. And there's a brand that taught me this lesson where I forget what happened, something screwed up. They wrote an apology, plain text email, say, "I'm so sorry. I screwed up. Like, here's like 15% off. Please forgive me. But by the way," and they asked them a question, right? And they got a lot of people responding to it. One, it was amazing for deliverability. But then number two, half the people that responded like, "Oh, it's okay. You're human, girl. We're totally cool with it. I just checked out." And that email slaughtered. It was amazing. And so it just taught me a really good lesson that if you take the time, try to be a real person, apologize, but also just have that conversation, it's just going to make your emails go through the roof. And I think that's where a lot of people forget is like they just think transactional versus actually communicating.
Yes, it's so incredibly easy to fall into that trap because you're just looking at numbers on a screen. And you're forgetting, it's so easy to forget that there are humans, there are people on the other side, people that you can turn into raving fans that can then help you bring on other raving fans. Like there are people that you can forge a relationship with, not just like your Shopify dashboard of how many sales you got today, right? So that I think that applies to especially media buyers, I think, and especially anyone who's on the more technical side of things. It's very easy to fall into that trap. So what you just brought up, which is like, an apology email with a reply call to action, right? Like a call to response, is a great way for anyone in the brand to be reminded of the fact that there are real people on the other side who have opinions and who have a certain affinity towards your brand. And you can almost qualitatively look at it and go, well, I can score this as 0. They almost have no affinity to my brand because they didn't bother replying, or they shat all over it in the negative, right? Or a really high affinity to my brand because they sent a really positive message and doing some type of sentiment scoring there. It's a real thing, bro.
Have I ever told you about it is, and you remind me of a story. Have I ever told you about the brand that had the highest cart recovery rate I've ever seen?
No, I don't think I heard the story.
So this was pre-Writer, right? Back when Ray was a solo act. So I was working with this brand one time, and part of the conversation, I was like, "Oh, so tell me about your cart abandonment rate." I wasn't doing email, but I was trying to understand their business. And she said, "Oh, my cart abandonment rate's only it's like 48, 50%." And I was like, "Only 48 or 50% of people abandoning your cart?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's only 40, 50%. I was like, "That is so astronomically low. What are you doing?" And the brand, this wasn't a big brand. It was honestly, they're probably doing like $120,000 a month. It was her and like two other girls, employees. Everything else had like a 3PL. Well, what she did was, every time someone abandoned the cart, she had her assistant who sat next to her would personally email them from Gmail, and it would say her name as the founder. So it looked like it was coming from the founder, and they personally email every single one saying, "Hey, saw you abandon the cart. I'm a real person. Just want to say why didn't you like it? Is there something I can do? Can I ask any questions? Answer any questions?" And half the time, people was like, "Oh, I just forgot," or "I didn't know what to do." And they were recovering so much manually emailing people. So just talk about doing the unscalable, but also actually caring enough about your customers to do that. I've never forgotten that lesson. I've told so many people about this. No one's ever done it except for that one brand. But talk about willing to do what no one else is willing to do.
Right. Hard to scale, but I mean, I think we've fallen into that trap trying to start this especially during the early days of starting this agency. And I know a lot of business owners fall into this trap as well, where they try to create scalable processes or scalable systems way early, way early, right? They're trying to do it's like talking to those agency owners or those D2C founders. I guess on the agency owner side, it's like, well, how many clients do you have? Well, we're early days. It's like 5 or 6. How many sales calls are you doing? We're doing between 5 and 10 sales calls a day. But, I need your help, D, because our systems aren't scalable. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, bro, you're on 5 clients and you're doing 10 sales. Don't worry about scalable just yet." No, there's something to be said about personable, right? Because the troublesome thing about scalable is, I mean, there is something to be said about sending out a personalized email by changing a custom variable in a platform, right? Yes. It just feels a bit like, I know what I'm doing here. I'm trying to make it seem personalized in an unpersonalized, and the consumer kind of knows that too, in most times until it's not and it's executed poorly. But the point being, when you're in early days, exactly like what you said about that founder, good for her for caring about every single sale. And I would imagine that if you're doing that, you would get to your 1,000 true fans so much faster than 100%. Someone who's trying to scale too early, right? To be so funny, I'll set up the sophisticated flow.
Yeah, it's a really good reminder. People want more followers, more views, but you really don't need that. If you can have 1,000 true fans, which I would say is attainable, that is enough to have just an absolutely thriving business.
Yeah, 1,000 true fans. I would take 1,000 true fans over 1 million kind of apathetic so followers on any social media platform, any day. Because the thing about fans, and we know this, we see this every day in real life, true fans don't leave your team just because you lost one game or one playoff or one Super Bowl.
We're going to start a platform called True Fans.
Yeah, not only fans, true fans.
Yeah, not only fans can call it True Fans.
Right. It's like
or you pay your fans.
Right. buy this NFT and you'll get anyway. I think it's any crypto bros want to join us for this?
Yeah, there you go. We're taking investments now.
Yeah, exactly. We are opening our fund. It'll be crypto only and only JPEGs. Yeah,
just drop into our wallets and we'll get started.
Totally. Just don't click the plain text hyperlink. So based off of those designs that you showed us before, this might be a good time to talk about the best practice playbook. And by the way, for those of you that are watching, I would love to get this playbook into your hands so that you can use it for yourself and your team. Just make sure that you check out the description below. I don't care about your email. Just click on it. We'll make it view only, and you can get access to this thing right here.
But we do care about if you're a true fan, so make sure you subscribe.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Only for a true fan, though. All right. So, again, this was actually made by Leanne. She leads our design team for our email team. And we use this tool, one, for designers that come in to train them. We use it also so that brands can see what's different about us and how we conceptually think about how we design emails. In addition, we use it too because we update this. This is actually the second version that we've made of this, and we'll update it as we find certain practices no longer work or we find better, more aesthetically pleasing. So this is kind of like a living document. It's not once and done. We actually just updated it like a month ago. All right, so let's kind of dive in. So there's a few practices we follow. The first one is, no, surprise, surprise, things have to be on brand. And I think this is where we talked about earlier in this episode how I've kind of changed how I conceptually think about design. And I think this is where I've seen an interesting trend where when it comes for acquisition, I feel like that's when you can break a few rules, because at the end of the day, you're trying to get attention for your brand, to get them to click, right? And then visit your brand, right? Essentially. But for email, you have them, they've given some amount of vulnerability to give you their email address or their phone number. And that's where I actually want to put a lot more emphasis and a lot more attention into making sure that my emails and my site feel the same and that they're also on brand. Because now they're touching a lot more, if that makes sense. So that's number one. Number two is, again, I just mentioned that, is, for example, I showed some of their emails earlier, is we want to make sure that the experience feels consistent between email and the website. Again, because email and SMS is so much more intimate than just an ad. And so I kind of want to treat it a bit more intimately to where they feel like they're still getting a great experience that they would also get on the website. The next one is, this is one of the hills I will absolutely die on, is the call to action must be big, loud. If you can make it a different color, but it's gotta pop. It's gotta pop. And I think that's a personal pet peeve, but we test this a lot, and I'm not going to debate colors. I don't think colors makes a difference. However, what does make a difference is making it extremely clear. And obviously, we keep it above the fold, and here's our best practices. But the big one here is a lot of people like to have several call to actions. I actually don't believe that. That doesn't work in our opinion. So we keep it highly concise and keep the call, just one main call to action, if at all possible. Then this is also just different examples as well. An example of an email that doesn't have a clear call to action, like what the heck are you supposed to do? Versus one that does, it makes it very easy where you can go to take the next step, right?
Yeah.
Of everything that we've tested in emails, honestly, man, anything above the fold makes the biggest difference. The image and the text above the fold, and especially the image, man, it's so funny. We ran a lot of tests last year on this specifically, and of everything we were testing, the image in the email, layout, copy, frankly, it was that main hero image was the most important thing. 9 times out of 10. Absolutely. So we do emphasis on that. Yeah. The next one is, if you can use GIFs, use it. And I think this is why sometimes we have outsized returns as well, is because our team puts a lot of emphasis in that above the fold imagery because it sets the tone, right? Not only for the brand, but it sets the tone for the rest of the email. And we'd like to put a lot of emphasis on that. And we're just exceptionally good at GIFs and emails.
While we're looking at that one, the one, how should people think about let me rephrase. How should whoever is designing the email think about dimensions for what is above the fold from a desktop, which is horizontally rectangular, versus mobile, which is vertically rectangular? Because I can see here already that there are some aspect ratio and safe zone principles that are super cool, but very very innocuous. Like they're non-obvious whatsoever.
Yeah. Right? So that's a great question. I think the credit definitely goes to our design team who keeps an eye on that kind of stuff. So, it's pretty clear. You guys can see the safe zone. Can you see my cursor, by the way? You can see the safe zones around this, right? Number two is we always design for mobile first. The highest percentage of all emails that are checked nowadays are on a mobile phone. And so, frankly, you have to design mobile first, which it seems crazy to even say that out loud. Like that should be the obvious. So we design for that first. And I don't know the exact safe zones, but our team does. So for example, if you pop this up on your mobile phone, that's why, all these safe zones are pretty clear. It's probably a bit longer versus wider, right? Because it's not on a desktop and it's on mobile.
But also at the same time, this is where it's cool. If you look at the one on the left, ready for a thrill, Halloween giveaway, and then the sneakers. Mm-hmm. If you're on desktop, that still is horizontally rectangular. Horizontally rectangular, like from a safe zone standpoint, that would still be visible. It wouldn't be truncated or cut off.
That's correct.
Much like the one on the right, you would see the Jordans, but also at the same time, you would see the text that is sitting behind the Jordan. So it's not like you're missing out on the text anyway, for you to then kind of scroll to that next part. So it fits vertically and it fits horizontally is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah. And what's actually pretty cool too is this particular style. So again, hats off to Jay and Lise and that whole team and Kix for you guys working this up. So what's pretty cool too is like on a mobile phone, it fits, but this is where I really like how our team designs is because it's actually kind of fun. I see that hand popping out or I see that fire, like I have to scroll more. I just have to. I want to see the rest of it. And I think that's just the genius of how they designed it too, to where, because you see it popping out of the ground, you're like, oh crap, I want to see what's below the ground, below the fire. And that's just part of the genius of it.
Yeah.
Again, I could not design this to save my life. So hats off to them.
I truly believe that good design really is like good copy. Like they always talk about it in great copy. The first line, the point of the first line is to lead you to the second line, right? The point of the first paragraph is to lead you to the next paragraph. The point of that design is to lead you to more, wanting to go more deeper into the design and then get you to that next desired action.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. We put so much effort into having amazing email designs. I'm like, I need to make these into landing pages too, because they're just so good. They need to be shared with more people. Yeah. And I tell my team all the time, I was like, dang, let's turn these into landing pages too.
Yeah, for sure.
This is also part of our standard. We test this a lot. We're a big believer in it. Some people disagree, but we like to, in most emails, to have value propositions or unique selling propositions. So it is brand specific, but that's something we typically do because we like to reiterate. Because humans, you say this all the time, repeatedly repeat yourself, right? How often do you say that in our team? And
I repeatedly repeat that.
Yeah, I literally says those words like probably every week, and it's a good reminder. And I think that's where, we feel like we're being repetitive, and we are. But I think customers need to be reminded too of what makes us different, what makes us special. And I like to use that a lot. And I think, I don't have data on this, but I think over a long period of time, it's a great reminder every time they open your email. Oh yeah, like that's why this brand's so awesome. Oh yeah, like that's why this product is actually worth the price.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Totally. It's
okay. So good.
No, I was just going to say it's exactly that reminder. You're not making a big deal out of it. You're just leaving it in there at the very bottom to just a reminder, right? Here are the reviews. Here's the fact that we have 5-star reviews, a bit of trust, a bit of authority, a bit of what benefits them, and a bit of safety. Right, 5-star service.
There you go.
It's carefully curated. There's expert industry knowledge. So it's like, oh, if I need customer support, they know what the heck I'm buying, and they're not just like, they're not just gonna send me to someone and be like, we don't know anything like that. Like, we can't help you troubleshoot.
This next one is not every brand has this, but we will strategically use the footer as well. If someone scrolled all the way to the end of the footer, they still haven't taken any action, we'll use it as a kind of like a gateway for help them take the next step, for example. So this isn't our email, by the way, but one thing that we will do as well is we have brands that have quizzes. We have brands that also have other initiatives, like for example, like membership clubs, or this is cool. You can do what's called dynamic insertion inside of Klaviyo. It's actually to where if you send someone an email, but you don't have their SMS, you can dynamically insert an image to get them to opt in to SMS. So those are just some really cool tactics you can use well that, again, if they've gone to the bottom of the email and they still haven't taken action, they're just going to exit out of it. So why not, shoot your shot, try to get them to take the next step, maybe because they haven't found what they're looking for. And that is a strategy you can use. We don't have a standard, but this is something we swap out as well in our emails, where we often will take specific reviews as once the message is at the end, we'll add reviews. We'll remind them that there's payment plans. We often use that like in abandoned carts and welcome series, and also sharing how other people in the community are using this, using their products. Just on this one real quick, it's actually really funny. We ran a test, last year, and there was one email that we were running a reviews test that literally 2x'd the results of the previous email. And the reason why is because the review was exceptionally helpful. And so what we try to do is we try to find reviews, not that, ooh, this is the best comfort, or this just feels good or tastes good. No, like find ones that are helpful. For example, the review specifically that I'm mentioning, what it said was, I paired this shirt with these bottoms and it worked really good for this reason. Or another review said, I'm a 5'1" girl and I found this shirt fit my back, or my whatever, like I'm making this up, fit this a lot better than the other thing. So like it was not just like, this is great. It's like, no, actually helpful. And so that's what taught us a really great lesson, that go and hunt reviews that are actually helpful, where the person's actually giving value in the review. Yeah. And those have outsized returns, by the way.
And by the way, using that type of script for any type of creator content can also be super helpful. Can also be super productive as well. So instead of your getting a creator to just be like, I'm wearing this, look how pretty it is, or I just got this shirt, look how manly it makes me look, anything like that, to then it follows that same exact principle, right? It's application use cases. That's all it is. It's just, hey, look at me. To call out and say, I'm this tall. This is this outfit on me right now. And if you want a cross-sell opportunity, and I paired it together with this, and this is how I look. And then you can do that for taller people. You can do that for different sizes. Those are all from an apparel standpoint. But I mean, how awesome!
Especially the sizes too. Like, if you have a review about
awesome
that,
are
like
those haul videos, or even the staged ones where it's like, I'm trying this foundation, this one, and this one, and they kind of smear it on the table in front of them, and they're working it on, and then they go, well, look at what this one is doing to my skin. Instantly, it's like, okay, well, I can relate to that as a consumer. Works in emails, works in like user-generated content, because it's all about the application, not just this is great.
I know. And honestly, it's so funny. Consumers when they just hear everything is roses and sunshine, it actually scares them off because like they're pretty mature. Like they understand that someone's just trying to sell them versus a review that is angled as, oh, let me actually give value, or on this size, or this fit me the best. Or it pairs well with this. It actually feels more realistic, right? Because it's specific.
Yeah, because it doesn't scare me off. It just makes me go, yeah, of course you'd say that. It's like, when you go to a restaurant, and you ask the waiter, hey, by the way, like, what's good here? And the waiter says, sir, they're all good here.
Yeah, you go, like, all right, dude.
Bro, like, of course you'd say that. Like, come on, man. Right? Like, same deal.
I hate when they say that. Cause like, if it's my first time, I'll often ask a waiter, hey, what do you recommend here? What do you like here? And if they're like, everything's good here, I'm like,
forget it. Yeah, you're not getting a tip. You're not getting a tip. Oh, man.
I actually mentioned this earlier, so you can see right here, mobile first. So when our team is designing emails, they actually do it mobile first. And if you're on Klaviyo, they do a great job of just resizing everything anyways, but definitely mobile first. The next one is, so here's just some rules we live by when we're actually crafting mobile-friendly emails. Some of it is common sense, and I know it's common sense, but yet you'd be surprised how many emails we see when a brand comes to us that aren't followed. So it's worth repeating. Number 3 is my biggest pet
number
peeve.
3. Number 3.
I freaking lose my mind when I see anything that is smaller than that. It doesn't, like, who in the world can read font that freaking small on a mobile phone? Like, it's stupid. And so it's funny because like anytime someone made it and they did that font, like, oh, it looked fine. I'm like, on desktop or mobile? Go check it on mobile.
Bro, anytime I see a super small font, the immediate thing in my mind is like, they're racist. They must be racist. My eyes are small enough. What are they doing to me? Like, come on. It's horrible.
Same thing with websites. If anything's under 4-point font, you're actually scaring people. You're scaring people away, but you're actually hurting conversions because you want to make it as easy to read as possible. Anyways, pet peeve over.
Pet peeve over.
This is a big one on testing devices. Test devices and also different browsers. The biggest one, you have to test on dark mode. There's a large percentage of people that have their phones on dark mode. They have their desktops on dark mode. And FYI, if you have a specific type of background with a dark colored font, it's not going to show up, and this is going to kill your results.
I wish we had examples. I really wish we had examples of how horrible it can actually, like how hard it could be to read. I know we don't, but maybe we should start. I know we've done
a pass where we didn't test it on a dark device, and it screwed us. Frankly, that's what taught us the lesson. Like, oh crap, like we probably should test on dark mode.
Totally.
Okay. All right. The next one is, this is one that our team likes to think about, is if you ever log onto an app, how does it look? How does it feel? And can you make your emails like that as well? And a big part of that is having a lot of white space. And that's one thing you'll notice with a lot of our emails is we use a lot of white space. We try to make sure that they're not cluttered at all. And that just adds to making it a lot more friendly. It makes it more readable, makes people understand what to do next, what to do. And the biggest part is it intuitive? Do they intuitively know there's more to the email to scroll? And I think like those Halloween designs kind of paint that picture.
Mm.
One's obvious, but when we're going to design an email, we ask ourselves, what's the most important thing to get across? What image or model or angle is actually the most powerful and potent? Well, let's put that one first.
For sure.
This one is definitely a designer's perspective, so I can't talk too eloquently here. Maybe you could, D, but they go nuts on making sure that the colors work. It's way over my head to be really transparent with you, but they're amazingly good at it, making sure the colors work with the branding, but also the readability. And that's something that they really geek out over.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to skip this one, but can't go ahead.
I was just going to say with the colors one, because I used to work in the film industry, as a creative, but also on the other side as a producer, I understand how the communication breakdown when it comes to certain things that designers see are so obvious to them, but then everyone else, especially like what we back in the day used to call the suits, would be like the suits would never understand, right? But the only time suits do understand is when you show them something that is so offensive to the eye. You almost have to go to the full extreme. You have to show them something so offensive to the eye, and they're like, "Oh my god, that is completely like disgusting, offensive. Like it's never going to work. It's ugly." They use those words. If you dial it back down, the designers are able to see the subtleties of that. So if you look at those bullets before, stick to the brand's color palette. Use other colors as accents. Use contrasting colors to highlight sections. Like even in this one, for example, I would, as a critique, I would probably still try to push the designers a little harder and say, how do we make the desired call to action areas pop just that little bit more?
Yeah,
because everything's blending in a little bit. I'm not saying use a vomit. I'm not saying use a vomit green color. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. Or like some kind of like neon pink. But how do we make it just stand out just that little bit more? Because the inclination is always to have, and I think Leanne put it in here in the first paragraph, like selecting those harmonious colors. But sometimes harmonious can also just mean like everything blends together.
Yeah. There's a thing we do now. So this email is actually a pretty old one. There's a thing we do now. Have you seen I can probably scroll through and find a previous one that we did, but there's a type of button that we love to do. This will be quick. And it looks like it's already clickable. So because it has like this, like that, like that's like a good example, but it looks like it's already clickable because it's got that drop shadow behind it.
Yeah.
And that's typically our standard now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like even here, for example, another critique that I'd probably give is the fact that use code extras 25 for certain mobile users or certain users can actually mistake that for a button.
Agreed. So like example like this. This is typically our standard now with like, buttons because it looks like it can be clickable. Yeah.
Unarguably a button.
Yep.
Right.
Can spam compliancy. That's something that's standard. Don't miss it. You'll get screwed. But yes, do it. So here's where we try to add some personalization. You can do tags. You could also do dynamic blocks inside. If you use Klaviyo, for example, to where you can personalize emails based off what people are interested in, based off what people have or have not done. It takes a bit of work, but it's definitely worth the effort, is if you can personalize it. Here's where we go a bit crazy, layout. So there's different types of layouts that we like to use. And it really depends on, is it one product we're advertising? Is it several products? Is it informational email? Is it more of a shopping our best sellers type of email? And so there's three big kinds of layouts we have to look at. So you have like the one column where you're focusing on like one product, make everything quite vertically aligned. You can take your time just focusing on that one product. Another one that we call the inverted pyramid, as you can see right here, things kind of go from left to right and go down, and then the zigzag. I think I showed some examples like that earlier. So those are some big email design layouts that just help you to think through what layout do I want to use, pick one of these three, and then you can just focus on design elements and obviously copy. Now we're going to get into specifics of actually design structures. So most emails kind of follow this structure: logo, header, body, call to action, USP, and a footer. And this just shows representation of how our team thinks about emails when we're compiling them, because an email is just essentially a compilation of sections. Because we think of like a modular, like bricks, right? We're building an email, and these are the bricks that we're using. And here's examples. So I've already shown a bunch of examples, but here's examples of us using those, obviously. And that is it, Dee. That is our email design best practices.
Love that. Personally, I'm such a fan of beyond design, and I'd love for us to maybe explore this in a future episode. I'm such a big fan of brands who have very clearly found their brand voice.
Yes, it's admirable.
And it just comes across in their copy that it's so full of personality.
Yeah.
And that it just brings the relationship between the me as a consumer interacting with that brand's content to a whole other level. Quite honestly, to the point where I cannot help but want to tell other people about some spicy email that they wrote or some type of thing that they dropped. I mean, it's just like our first episode with Liquid Death. It's just very talk aboutable. Word of mouth. If any of you guys want to come at me for talk aboutable, but you know, it makes me chuckle whenever I see emails from brands that have like fake reviews. But the fake reviews are like them taking a bit of like a self-deprecating joke at themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I remember there was this one restaurant that I was trying to make bookings for. I forget where. It's a steak restaurant. And one of the emails they sent out was reviews, but all the reviews were written by vegans. So it's like, you know what I mean? So it's a bit like tongue in cheek, right? It's like, worst restaurant ever, couldn't find a vegetable in sight. And then it would be like, you know, Marianne, vegan. Right? You know what I mean? So it'd just be stuff like that.
I love that.
That just the personality shines through. And I'd love for us to be able to explore that maybe in another episode, just around like how copy and how that brand voice can also contribute to conversions, can contribute to brand loyalty, and definitely on the retention side, it's like you said, it's such a different game compared to the paid acquisition side of things.
Oh man, there is actually, gosh, I don't know if I can find it. There is actually an amazing tweet that does that. Oh, it's pretty similar to that. Do you know who the ad professor is on Twitter?
Love that account. I don't know who he is. I want to know who he is, or if it's a she. But love that.
Whoever you are, you're crushing. So check this out. So it's not a review exactly, but perfectly illustrating what amazing copy, and especially almost like using like the kind of like the negative angle that you mentioned. Check this out. All right. So by the way, Ad Professor, this is amazing. So this is actually an ad he did conceptually just for Asana. Can you read that?
Rome wasn't built in a day. Launch a republic. Hire Julius Caesar, assassinate Julius Caesar, build Pantheon, build Colosseum, conquer Western Europe, collapse tomorrow. That's awesome. That like,
what a good ad, man.
Whenever personality can shine through like that, and this is the thing that I appreciate, right? That I don't know how that type of humor fits into a large organization like Asana, where they might have really strict guidelines and someone really controlling being like, what the hell is that? It doesn't talk about productivity, doesn't talk about any of that other stuff. How does that fit into the way that we talk? So it's not lost on me how difficult it is sometimes for marketers, in-house or external, to get these types of things across the line to actually getting launched. Because you could have someone, whoever's the gate, I guess, whoever's the holder of the keys, just being like, this doesn't fit. Everything must sound like this, or it must be talked about like exactly this.
And I feel like only the people that get to that point who are so clear on, like you said, their voice, their personality, can they actually ever kind of able to stumble across and consistently produce things like that? Once
you find it, it's such a letting the creatives do their job becomes such a smoother experience, because now they understand the sandbox, and they're not restricted to a matchbox of space to be like, listen, the most you can do is choose between red or like Martin Scorsese red. Like, you can go, this is the latitude that you get to play with. These are the bounds, and feel free to flirt with the boundaries, right? As long as we understand what the objective is in the myriad of marketing objectives, because not everything is conversion at the point of interaction.
That's exactly true. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, our post-purchase surveys teach us that when we ask them, how long ago did you first hear about us? Those brands are like, I've known about you for like 6 months. Like,
dude, exactly. Pretty much exactly the same thing goes for us. Please do not go fill in an inquiry form after watching just this one video of Ray and I. We don't want that. Like, we do not want that, right? Like, go check out our stuff. Like,
see our videos, make sure we're legit. Yeah.
Like, do all that type of stuff, right? Not everything. We're not going to go back to the marketing team, or you and I are not going to sit down and be like, how many sales did we get from this one podcast? It'll be the dumbest conversation ever. So yeah, same kind of deal. Dude, thanks for talking us through the best practices. I hope that you watching this got some value out of that. Would love to dig into, I think it'd be kind of fun if we nerded out around copy next time. Doesn't have to be next episode per se.
That'd be a very fun episode. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be fun. We should do that.
Yeah. That'd be
brought some of our design team on, let them nerd out on design and how they come up with concepts. Yeah.
Totally. And just to remind everyone here, what you saw, the slides that we had before, I will make sure that they are available in the description below. Don't care about what your email address is and capturing that. I'll make sure that it's, you can just get it straight up. And we will see you in another episode where hopefully we have more stuff to give you. Ray, good hanging out as always, man.
Yep. See you next time.
Later, everyone.